thing, and any attempt to represent Canada will be an abject failure, and that is the story of this book as well. There are so many stories about this period of time, found inside and outside this narrative, that could be spun into books of their own. I want to hear those stories. I encourage you to tell them, and to take this book for what it is, not for what it isn't. Now, dive in. These are deep waters. Chapter 1. Visualize Success. That night in Toronto. This book began on December 14th, 2001. Toronto was blanketed in the first heavy snowfall of the year, the warm, insulating kind that makes the city look beautiful, the kind that makes the coming winter feel welcome. The band Royal City was headlining Lee's Palace for the first time to launch their second album called Alone at the Microphone on Three Gut Records. Also on the bill was a brand new act called The Hidden Cameras, and this was an unruly orchestra that looked like a group of queer camp counselors with underwear-clad go-go dancers playing perfect 50s-style pop melodies set to four-on-the-floor disco thumps and violins. It was one of the most beautiful nights of music I'd ever seen in my life. The Hidden Cameras were a complete surprise. Even though I had a few friends in the band, that was my virgin experience. Royal City was not a surprise, because I had played on a solo record by bandleader Aaron Riches, who in turn had played drums in my band when we needed a fill-in. Royal City drummer Nathan Lohr was a former roommate. That week, I had given Alone at the Microphone a 5-star review in iWeekly. Is that nepotism? Sure. But if I had not written that review, someone else would have. The album was a critical favorite across the country that year and still gets mentioned as a classic of the era. It was on an entirely different level from other records that happened to be made by friends in my musical orbit. It eventually got Royal City a record deal with the UK's Rough Trade Records, with the man who had signed both the Smiths and, more recently, the Strokes. The label signed the Hidden Cameras at the same time. But the idea of either signing seemed ridiculous on that cold December night. When the show was over, I lingered at the bar, and I ran into Stuart Berman, my editor at iWeekly, and we shared our rave reactions. "Mark my words," he said. "This is the start of something. In a couple of years, everyone will be talking about Toronto." I was highly skeptical. 2 months earlier, in the same venue, had been the launch party for a book that I co-wrote called Have Not Been the Same. That book was about Canadian music between 1985 and 95, music that was beloved at home, but with some notable exceptions, barely registered anywhere else. Tales of Canuck underachievement had been hammered into me to the point that I believed, just like one of my favorite non-Canadian songs of 2001 said, "Mediocrity rules, man." "I don't want to burst your bubble," I told Berman, "but the rest of the world doesn't give a shit about Canada, no matter how good our music is. People care more about indie music from New Zealand or Iceland than they ever will about Canada. Canada will never be cool." In 2001, I believed the Nickelbacks of the world would likely be our greatest export. Not the Royal Cities, not the Hidden Cameras, not the Feists, not any other genre of music either, especially not our hip-hop. That night, Royal City covered Iggy Pop's Success. I should have listened. I should have known. Another three-gut act had already warned me. 9 months earlier, I first heard the Constantines. I was living in Guelph, and I had just finished co-writing Have Not Been the Same. I had barely left the house in a year. The week before, Stuart Berman had written about the Constantines with the most hyperbolic prose I had ever read. Before I knew it, my friends at Three Gut Records had signed them. It turned out that one of the greatest new Canadian bands was living literally around the corner from me, 100 meters away, and I had been too suffocated by history to even notice. So that weekend, I went to see them play. The show was in a bright grad lounge on the 5th floor of Guelph's University Centre, which is a building akin to a shopping mall with office space.